Hello, my name is Everett Pierce of Einstein 314. Today is December the 31st, 2016, and I want to wish you all a happy new year of 2016. Now, it is 7:12 a.m. in the morning. Not that I picked this, but because of the next things in line to talk about in the timing of it, and I'm up. So one thing that you, being a apprentice to be a leader, is to be familiar with your cycles. We have an atomic clock of our body. So everyone's have this. All life have this, an atomical clock, which is in reference to time. So when you with this duly noted 24. Now, duly noted 24D. And although it's under leadership, we are going to talk about a very, very important derivative of leadership is DiVerSiTy. Now, when we stand back and we think on the levels of a world player. Now, I don't say the word player as the same as what you hear on the streets, a player. I mean, they're out there, they're working it, they're using deception, they're using all kinds of tools to play people. That's not what I mean by player. Player, it's like Monopoly, for example. You can have up to so many players. So that's what I mean. We have several people or several cultures, several nations as world players. DiVerSiTy. Now, when we step even further back, okay, you represent the sixth heaven. That is less than 1% of the life that's out there. So if you, and you will in due time, will have the opportunity to observe these other life forms, these other planets. And it takes on a whole new dimension of energy, of understanding yourself and understanding other life forms. So you have to get down to the basics of things. Your basics that you can learn is everything is here. Now, in this 24D, we're going to talk about many things. We're going to talk about other nations and the leaders of those nations. We're also going to talk about, in reference to DiVerSiTy, that there also has to be a leader of leaders, a president of presidents, a general of general. So, you say, well, isn't the highest level of evolution, meaning God, Allah, Jehovah, or Creator, or whatever you want to call? Absolutely. But, we learn in terms of, that's also a derivative of leadership, is placement, which is a foundational item. Placement, timing. Okay, so God, when you step back and you got this whole universe, and you have all this life, and you have all these suns and stars and everything happening, God is facilitating, is like an orchestra, and he has a band, multiple band members, is they all know how to play their instrument very well. And he's trying to a song of some sort. But he wants it, and he wants to help them. He's facilitating them as to when you come in strong, when you come in softly. So he's orchestrating, facilitating. So a leader of leaders, and just a leader, is facilitating. Has to learn all, you have to make a list of things. What is your top 10 of things that you cannot have or be without? Is one of them is the DiVerSiTy. And it starts with yourself. DiVerSiTy. So, and how this plays into Rocky, Sylvester Stallone. And why Sylvester Stallone is a seventh heaven spirit. Because Sylvester Stallone is highly respected on the seventh heaven. Despite the higher ranking individuals there on the seventh heaven. And what we see in Rocky, the perseverance, the dedication, and the training, is Sylvester Stallone was humbled coming there and seeing my higher ranking individuals, all sorts, like a band, all these instruments. That can be very humbling. So it's like, it'd be like me singing next to Josh Groban. And it's like, I start singing and then he starts singing and I make the comparison. And I was like, man, I sound pathetic compared to that. You know, in this voice, using this tool, the flesh. The brain controls, or the spirit controls the brain. That's why a lot of religions have a little cap. Whether it's a big cap or small cap, or he's saying, Yaman. Or a complete veil. Or they call it veil, but it's still warfare. Now, DiVerSiTy. Starting with yourself. We have fingers, we have hands, we have arms. If we split ourselves down in the middle, it's like a mirror image, but not a complete mirror image. Now, I have said many times in my other videos that the human race is superior. 7 billion people here, every single soul, every person on this planet, every animal, insect, plant, everything that's here is deemed awesome and superior. This was, you know, like fruit picking of the things that were out there. Now, if you take the lottery, it makes it an understanding. Now, I could not teach this in this manner back then. I had to, like I said, as Abraham Lincoln and also Albert Einstein. This quote here, if you don't know something in its simplest form, you do not know it enough. Well, if you flip that coin, if you do not know how to make a rocket, you don't know it enough. Well, that's quite obvious, something sophisticated. But a lot of people wouldn't think on this side. And basically, you're going to be a leader of leaders. You are required to know all the steps going up to the very top. It is a requirement. It's inseparable of your top 10. You must know. In order to do that, you have to have a well-developed sense of communications. And because we have DiVerSiTy, you're going to have gaps. Okay, if you have major gaps, like we see, there was a new, I don't know if it's a new bridge, but in China, I think it was China, but don't quote me on that. Beautiful bridge, by the way. It's like, wow, it just gives you goosebumps looking at it. So you have the bridge concept. So if I see, this is no offense to anyone. If there's anything you know about me, is I may say a lot of things, I may use a lot of words, I use a lot of parables, metaphors, but when the dust settles with me, I'm about forever life. That's my main objective. I mean, second to God, the highest level of evolution. So, as a leader of leaders, I'm at that stage is I'm trying to understand God. Now, there's quite a bit of a gap between the highest level of evolution. You say, well, how do you know this? How do you know that this highest level of energy? Well, let's just roll the tapes back. What's the significance of our history? Now, if we roll back, you say, well, we started out with a stone wheel. Where are we at today? The rubber wheel. And everything in the middle. The vinyl record. The vinyl record going to the 8-track, and the cassette, and the CD, and the MP3. Okay, those are stages of evolution. Now, of course, they're primitive understanding of man, like we evolved from monkeys. We did not evolve from monkeys. And if you just have the simple concept of knowing the lottery, okay, with, let's say, Powerball or Mega, if you did out all the equation or all the possible outcomes in exact order, I mean, you're in the trillions of different combinations. You say, well, if you have the number but not in exact order, then that, of course, that's smaller. But I'm talking about exact order. Because what makes you is a specific number sequence in exact order of things. Because you figure we have, roughly, give or take, 7 billion people on this planet. And you represent 1%? Yeah, now we're talking about numbers and system of things that you'll find a keystone, a commonality. Meaning that everyone that, if I go out on this planet, I would bet that you are about life, wanting to exist. Well, there might be a few exceptions out there, but the serious ones have already killed themselves because they're not happy with themselves. Okay, so we don't have to look any further than ourselves. So our spirit is controlling our brain. Well, it's essentially what the president does. When you look steps further back, and Earth is now just a little like grain of sand, and God is facilitating. You have all these stars, and you have, I call the sea of blackness. So it's facilitating that, organizing that. But you are being a leader of yourself. So we start with self in its smallest form. And then we work our way up to what we perceive of a leader of a particular group, like the PTA, which is not as big as the United States, like a president or vice president. And then like even a leader of ISIS, which we have to deal with because they have fallen. As we know, you give a man an inch, he'll take it to a mile. Meaning that in terms of energy, you got negative, 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 positive, then you got positive, negative, and then positive, positive. So when you go to that extreme, you're into a negative, negative. That goes hand in hand with extinction. So with the leader of DiVerSiTy, I mean, now, as a little child, you're becoming familiar with your physical environment of you, your mouth, your eyes. You're trying to identify all your parts to your body. Because the human body, this body, your body, the human race, we are identified by our bones and the structure of it. That's why we were able to identify the T-Rex and the raptor and the names that have been given it to it. Now this may sound very odd, but if I'm going to be forever life, there will be a two-factor. There's forever death. Okay, and it's called extinction. I call it extinction. Because what we know with dinosaurs, and it is real as you and me. And so, of the names and labels that man has created in his past timeline, the devil and Lucifer. The devil is more suitable, is the name to explain that type of energy of extinction. Lucifer isn't. So if you read in the Bibles or any books across any nations, the mentioning of Lucifer falling means To fall means negative, and to rise, you raise me up. You're adding to. Okay, so Lucifer would be a negative. Okay, an angel. An angel, in terms of metaphor, created by God, a higher evolution. Mean an angel, a general, a status of his cabinet, as we see with the president's cabinet. So he's an alpha prime. What's an alpha prime? Well, once you get to know about energy and what you know about yourself when you exercise and you exercise and exercise and you don't lose any weight, but you're putting all this energy, is that your energy hits a plateau. And you have to figure out how to get off that plateau and start. Because if you're trying to lose some weight or you want to tone up, I don't even work out. So my body is at its worst. Okay. So we look no further than ourselves. In its smallest form, working our way up. Because as we've heard a million times over, if you can't handle the small things, say small responsibilities, how in the hell are you going to expect to handle successfully larger ones that entail more variables, that is more difficult, more challenging, which that comes in with Rocky. It's always good to drink your coffee. Okay. So the leader of leaders. So everyone on this planet, what you're looking at, this whole structure of the human body, is designed primarily through warfare. And say, what do you mean warfare? Your very own body is warfare. Because if you're going to be forever life, then, as I say, I walk it, I talk it, I sleep it, I eat it, everything about you, your whole essence, has to be primarily for the reverse of extinction. So if you're in a physical flesh of energy, then extinction is in like the wind, like solar radiation. You don't necessarily see it, but you have to observe it in different ways to know that it's there. And we see with our, say like for example, extinction likes to change polarity of things. So like say if I'm observing you, I might think you're mad at me. And I don't even know you. But for some reason I feel angry. Like you're angry at me. Well, first of all, you have to be aware of being an empath. It means being able to sense the energy around you. So, and that is, an empath is important to being a leader. Because if you disassociate with you and the people you're leading, and you don't understand where they're at, their feeling-wise, disassociation. It's like, whoa, I grew up and I have a dad, but I never met him, or my mother. Disassociation. I mean, they may want to make that connection. And that's part of the process. But at some point, if they didn't grow up with their dad, or maybe their mom or dad or family was in, they're deceased. So, but the thing is, as we know with family or mom and dad goes beyond DNA. Family, mom and dad, brother and sister, is more this, emotional, logic, reasoning, development. So these labels, which is a leader of leaders, is also label. And what is the criteria of leader of leaders? Means I'm going to have Putin here. I'm going to have Trump here. I'm going to have China here. I'm going to have Canada here, Mexico here, Australia, all the countries together. And they're going to be listening to me. And the diversity. So with this 24D, that this is we're going to have to take this out and multiple videos to explain this all of diversity, which is a derivative of a leader. And leader is a derivative of warfare. So one of the things about a leader, you have to have the skill set of being able to identify symptoms and be able, because everything leads up to a source, And then once you get up to this source and you find out this source now becomes a symptom to this source. And then you, as they say, reverse engineering. And our government and all governments are familiar with this term, reverse engineering. So if they find something that is of higher intelligence, they try to reverse engineer it. But there are some things that is of the higher intelligence understands reverse engineering. So when they design it in a way that if they are able to reverse engineer it, then they scrap it or they change it. They fine-tune it, because some things cannot be reversed engineered because of it could be the severity of it or because of the technology of it. Like, say, for example, opening up, this is space, but if I open this up and I keep this open, like we hear with the jets making a sonic boom, okay, that's space moving out and then coming back on itself. So what's in its place? That is subspace. So diversity. So diversity lies within our own body. Okay? And you can say, this right hand, we say that represent what people refer to the brown race, the human race. This is the white man. And I'm left-handed. And this one here represents the black man. And they say, Everett, but your hand's not black. Hint. Okay. And then next show, I'm fighting myself. I'm a lefty. I'm a left hand. And you're fighting each other. And you say, well, why are you fighting each other? If I use my hands, my body, of the range of motion of our body, of what we're capable of doing, the reason why the human race is superior, it is the design of this body. So you have to understand yourself. And then before you understand, you have to understand yourself. You can take college course and like Ben Carson, studying the human anatomy in the medical, if you wish. So even if you don't work in it, it has high beneficial. So like before I deliberately put myself into prison, I was accepted into HCC, which is a RN program down in Florida. And I was going through the program, learning, and then energy says, okay, if you're going to do it, this is time is it. So I pulled out of there, and then I went into prison to take on my next research, which was, in terms of hierarchy, more important to understand that side of the fence of human behavior. So a president, I mean, you're going to be subjected to a variety of people with different ideas, different opinions, and like life out there, you might have this nation that wants to be the only nation, and they will go to the extent to kill anything that isn't them. Okay? And you got this nation that love life, and they will go to the extent to protect life. So, in terms of placement on this planet. So, you can't have them on the same body of land that they can just walk over to your territory because someone's going to die. Okay? Because they're not going to fight you because they were about life and you're there to kill them. So now you have to have a body of water in between. Separation. I mean, making it far difficult in terms of, especially in the early development of man, is to put a separation. And that's why we see in our Constitution, separation of church and state. You know, why we have to have certain separations is why, you know, it's like certain animals. you have to keep them separate, or one of the animals will eat the other one, because the other animal is on its dinner list. So if I put a plate of cheesecake with blueberries on top in the same room with you, or a bag of potato chips, and I come back and I say, where's the potato chips? Or where's the cheesecake? And you're going to say, I don't know. It was here. That's what happens. So a leader of leaders has to understand these things. So, okay, so we look at ourselves. And why I bring up Sylvester Stallone. He's highly respected. Okay, now this is not derogatory towards Sylvester Stallone, and I'm sure that he wouldn't take this derogatory. But what to say, Sylvester Stallone is this little runt. You know, he's like a 3-foot man on the basketball court. And then you have the other team that come out who are a foot taller than Michael Jordan, and all of them are like Michael Jordan. 7 foot tall, and everyone can leap at half court line and slam dunk it. And then Sylvester Stallone gets out there, and he's 3 foot tall, and he's lucky to jump a foot off the ground. And he's like, holy shit. But what was unique about Sylvester Stallone and what he has put here, and it has affected me as a young boy, is it goes beyond just being a winner. Beyond going a winner. Now we see that with competition of Olympics, is say the Bolt. Okay. In terms of coming in first, all that does is lets us know, hold on a second. Okay, so it lets us know who's the best in that field. So if we're building a Ferrari motor or a Mercedes motor, okay, we know it comes with many parts. So we know that if Bolt represents the best carburetor there is, we're going to pull the Bolt and put him on top, because he has proven himself to be the best in that particular area, that particular tool. Okay, that's the reason why. Now, what you'll learn as a leader, coming in first is not always the best. Coming in second is not always the best. Coming in the number in which it puts you in high compatibility. Like say, for example, okay, the Republicans have hierarchy number 1, and the Democrats hierarchy 2. And that's why we have numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I got my ones in the 1 position, I mean, they max out on that meter 99% of their potential. And then the Democrats are in the position of 2, and now they're maxing out their potential 99%. Now we got high functionality. Be familiar with this word, functionality. Because when I look at my body, moving around, running, walking, talking, this is functionality. You say, oh, it sounds like a dance. Functionality is one of your highest foundational elements. Same with fairness. Okay. So, functionality, DiVerSiTy. So, okay. Now, coming in first. Now it comes down to a leader has to understand hierarchy. Now, you have a lot of the mindset of people, and they say, well, if you're not coming in first, you're a loser. You're a loser. You're a loser. Okay. Now, if I take the Republicans and I put them in the second spot, and they have to be a 2, and now the Democrats have to function as a 1. Now they're yielding at their best. Might jump down to 80%, 70%, 70, 80%. But if I switch them back, 99%. Okay, as we know with a car motor, if that part is weakened, the motor could be awesome. But if this part here takes on a crack and it leaks out my oil, and then my whole engine blows. So that's why we hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men are created equal. It means all these pieces, at their best, fine-tuned, must be together as a unit. So if you look at everything, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Everything in this room. And as you can see, I'm not reading from a teleprompter. It's on a tripod. If you look it down to the smallest of that item, you will find smaller parts. And if you look at that smaller part, you will find it even has smaller parts, and smaller parts, and then smaller parts. And if you go bigger, well, it's obviously, you say, okay, well, our universe is a billion stars, and then our galaxy, galaxy, and we're one of trillion of galaxies. So we're able to see it bigger. But we have a hard time of seeing it smaller. So when we went from the CD to the DVD to the Blu-ray, we're using light, which is DiVerSiTy. It's evidence of evolution. So when you have more than well-meaning evidence of DiVerSiTy, and you see, without a doubt, different levels of evolution, at what point does it max out? At what point does it bottom out? I mean, it's so small. And say, like, you take an atom and say, well, that's the smallest part of energy. No, it isn't. It gets even smaller than that. And density of energy, where you might have, let's say this. Let me say this is a brick of lead. And say, well, this is about a pound. Well, you have some materials out there. This would weigh more than the Empire State Building. You say, well, shit, how is that possible? It's very dense. Okay. You say, well, that sounds like Everett. Oh, no. And as I just illustrated, a president has to be able to laugh at himself. Has to sit back and not take himself seriously. A president has to know when to be serious, when to step back. So if I was a president and people are taking my picture and putting funny ears on it, I'm not going to let you off the hook. And it's like, don't come to me with some crappy of your creation, using your creativity and objective. I want to see some good shit. I want to see that creativity. And say, oh, you just put bunny rabbits on me, my ears on me? It's like, come on, you can do better than that. So I would have fun with the media. I would have fun with all the people out there that are developing their sense of skill sets, their creativity, and objective. So DiVerSiTy. So when you look out on this planet, of the variety of people here, that itself is conviction that, and any science, any researcher knows, even down to the dinosaurs, this does not evolve. For this much evolution to evolve to that point would take, with one followed by so many zeros. And it just could not happen in one spot. Okay. So your conviction is with this, all these level of evolution of life here, is that this had to come from another place. Another development means everything was created. Like in the beginning, it says, in the beginning for 6 days, God created everything. And then on the 7th day, he rested. Okay, even God rests. Time out. If God was to rest. And we just hope he doesn't. Just his version of resting. Okay, so think of your refrigerator. Okay, when I go in my refrigerator, especially now, it would be like, hello, hello. And you say, wait a minute, I have my refrigerator. It's a symbolism. Okay, now I have to go to the grocery store, big store with a variety of food items, packaged, not packaged, vegetables, candy, sugar. That's my favorite aisle. Brain food. So I have to collect what I like, and then I come home and I put it in my refrigerator. Same way with our silverware and our dishes. Everything that's set up on the sixth heaven here is designed to train as an apprentice the mindset of a leader of leaders. So from our refrigerator, so now we got milk in there, we got butter in there, we got ground beef, we got steak in there. Well, that only happens once a year. Now on $600 a month, you don't get a whole lot. So essentially, you're collecting things and putting them in one spot. The refrigerator itself, which is an innovation. Since the invention of sliced toast and the invention of the wheel, stone wheel, collection bringing upon, so that you will, with conviction, know beyond a shadow of a doubt, what you see out there has been brought here. So if you have unalienable rights, just like we see with the owner of a home or apartment, and then the friends that come to it. So the friends or family that come to your home would be unalienable. Okay? And you being a homeowner or the one renting it, you would be alienable. That's my position. Alienable rights. You have unalienable rights. So in terms of teacher and apprentice, I am the teacher, you are the apprentice. So that concept of energy is real simple. Everything in your environment, I don't care if you're in Russia or China or Canada or Mexico, everything in your environment is, I have to be able, with no tools, like you would see in prison. You have inmates, highly skilled. They have little to nothing, and yet they still are able to be functional, communicate, and everything else. So I can use anything in your environment to teach you basic fundamentals of energy, teach you how to be a president of president. And it makes it more interesting. That's why parables is more effective. Is now, if you're a hairdresser, I'm going to take this blow dryer and this comb and these scissors, and I'm going to explain it to you in a way that you'll say, holy shit, I've been around this for 60 years. I didn't see it that way. But now that you explain it in that way, now I can understand how that leads to being a leader, how that leads to, and then I can understand the human body being a perfectly designed warfare. Now, you're not going to see that word in Genesis. In the beginning was Adam and Eve, and they were perfect. Okay? Because people didn't understand warfare. So let's not introduce it yet until they at least get familiar with themselves, like a little child. They say, oh, I got fingers. See, I got fingers. As a child. So once we get to learn ourselves, and we are the president of ourselves, and then we expand on. So I'm really stoked. I got fire up my ass, especially on this topic of diversity when it comes to a needed critical element of leadership. So, and I think the part 2, or the next part, which will be 24B, that's when we'll focus more into the teaching aspect to Rocky Sylvester Stallone, and it's profound. Because he has established, even though he's the little runt, and I don't say that derogatory, but what he has accomplished in the seventh heaven, it's like he's 7 foot and bulletproof. Because of the endurance and self-preservation, and it's like you're 3 foot tall and you're going against 7 foot individuals that are highly skilled, like Michael Jordan. I mean, they would make Michael Jordan look like a runt. But it's how you stay on your path of wanting to develop yourself that has earned his name of, everyone knows Michael Jordan's name. Everyone knows Sylvester Stallone's name in the seventh heaven. Of course, it goes without giving, everyone knows my name. And I have many names. Everett. You know, if you look at my name, Everett, the last two letters is double T. If you put two capital T's, it looks like a pi sign. And the last two numbers of my name is P-I. You say, well, or P-I-E. Pi. So 3.14. So we'll bring this 24D to a close of DiVerSiTy, which is a derivative, a symptom of leadership. And leadership is a derivative of forever life, warfare. So it comes down to the simplest form, forever life and forever death. That is the source energy or the source of all things. So it's either forever life or forever death. So when you use the chain of command, just like vice president and president, speaker of their house. So it all comes down to forever life and forever death. And then there's one more, the highest level of evolution, which is God, Allah, Jehovah, Creator, and whatever other name that you have given it. So it just says, never call me late for dinner. So you can always take something back up, reverse engineer. You can down engineer. You know, I can make this cup and break it down in little parts. That's reverse engineering. So in terms of leadership, being a leader of leaders, you have to be able to do reverse engineering. You have to understand the diversity of human behavior, the diversity of your tools that is inseparable to man in human behavior. I'm on advanced level 3. No one here on this planet has accomplished 3 confirmations of advanced level 3. But that's why I'm the teacher. And that's why you're here on the 6th heaven as my apprentice. Now, whether you are, I'm teaching you directly, or you're watching my videos, or the things that you're subjected to in your environment, one way or another, you are being subjected and trained to be a leader of leaders, whether you like it or not. And if you don't want to be here and you've changed your mind just 3 times and be serious about it, and energy will remove you. You still have a democracy in that respect. If what you, at this point, you really just don't want it, this is not what you wanted it to be. 3 times, whether it's praying or whatever, and be serious about it, then energy, God, will grant your wish. It will remove, so if you die, you won't get reincarnated here. You will be placed back where we got you from, in your planet, in your evolution. So we still have that element of democracy. So forever life, forever death.